Magandang umaga, Pilipinas. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining around the world. Welcome to today's webinar, where we will try to solve farm consolidation and clustering challenges, the practices and prospects. We are streaming to you live through the SEARCA online learning and virtual engagements or SOLVE platform via Zoom and Facebook Live. My name is Jean Labios, and I am a program specialist of the Training for Development Unit under the Education and Collective Learning Department of SEARCA. I will be your moderator for this morning's webinar. The short video shown earlier has given you a glimpse about SEARCA and what we do. SEARCA is hosted by the Philippine government in the campus of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. So we are coming to you live from Los Baños, Laguna, the special science and nature city of the Philippines. This SOLVE webinar is SEARCA's immediate response to the emerging impacts of the COVID-19 global pandemic on food security. By maximizing the use of information and communication technology, platforms to inform, educate, and share evidence-based solutions and tested technologies, as well as best practices on the ground. If you are new to this webinar, this is actually the 30th webinar since it was launched last year, April 28. Today, we will be joined by two experts who will share their insights on farm consolidation challenges, practices, and prospects. Cases from the Philippines and Vietnam will be presented. SEARCA's 11th five-year plan, which was launched in July 2020, identifies sustainable farming systems and natural resource management as one of the priority areas that would accelerate transformation through agricultural innovation. But before we proceed to our online conversation this morning, please allow me to quickly go over some statistics gathered from the SOLVE webinar held on May 12, 2021. The infograph shows that 61% of our online viewers were female and the rest were male. It also indicates that more than 100 individuals tuned in via Zoom, and the same goes for those who viewed the webinar through SEARCA's Facebook page. Lastly, we are happy to note that we've had online attendees not only from the Philippines, but also from Indonesia, Myanmar, and Singapore. Let me now go over the program flow, which is currently shown on your screen. After my introduction and a few housekeeping rules, we will have our first speaker, Dr. John De Leon, Executive Director of the Philippine Rice Research Institute, or more commonly known as PhilRice. Dr. De Leon will open our discussion this morning by presenting the PhilRice experience on farm consolidation in the Philippines. He is also joined by Dr. Aurora Corrales, Chief Science Research Specialist of the Rice BIS program of PhilRice. Dr. Nguyen Viet Khoa, Head of Training and Education Division under the National Agriculture Extension Center of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Vietnam, follows with his presentation on the Agriculture Extension Services on Farm Consolidation in Vietnam. We also would like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Santiago Obien, who is currently Senior Technical Advisor to the Department of Agriculture. He also happens to be the first Executive Director of PhilRice. I know you're all excited to listen to our speakers, but let me first encourage you to send us your questions. How do you do this? For those of you who are tuned in via SEARCA's Facebook page, you may type your questions in the comments section. Kindly indicate your location now and/or country of origin. If you are tuned in via Zoom, please post your questions or comments in the Q&A box, which you will find in the menu bar on your screen. Kindly indicate your location and/or country of origin as well. Our SOLVE team will collate, curate, and compile those questions for me, and I will convey them to our speakers. Hopefully, we will be able to cover as many questions as we can in the time remaining. Please be clear when you are posing a question to a specific presenter, or if it is a general question that anybody can respond to. We will do our best to get as many questions as possible during the open forum. Kindly refrain from posting your email address in the comments section. You can provide this information to us upon responding to our evaluation form and e-certificate request. The link will be posted at the end of the webinar. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and will be made available on SEARCA's Facebook page and YouTube channel. Today's presentations will be uploaded on SEARCA's website at www.searca.org. The slides shown during the past webinars have already been posted there. For your social media posts, especially on insights or takeaways from this webinar, please use the hashtag SEARCASolve. If you have issues or are experiencing technical difficulties with the Zoom online platform, please contact us at solve@searca.org. Moving on to today's discussions, our first speaker this morning is Dr. John De Leon. He has led national and international breeding programs in rice prior to being designated by the Department of Agriculture Secretary William Dar and eventually appointed by President Rodrigo Duterte as PhilRice Executive Director in 2019. He works in research and development, and plant breeding have been recognized by different bodies such as the National Academy of Science and Technology, or NASTI, NASTI DuPont, the Crop Science Society of the Philippines, National Seed Industry Council, DevGen, Syngenta Asia Pacific Seed Development, and also by PhilRice in his earlier stint from 1990 to 2009. He earned his academic degrees from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, both his bachelor's and master's degrees, and the United Graduate School of Agricultural Sciences from the Iwate University in Japan for his doctorate degree in 2001. He was also a JICA trainee, an Asian Youth Fellow Program awardee, and a Mobutu Scholar. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. John De Leon.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting PhilRice to this SEARCA online learning and virtual engagements, or SOLVE, for your 2021 webinar series. And this morning, I'll be sharing with you two practical experiences that PhilRice remains a part of in the ground level implementation of farm clustering and consolidation. I understand that in the webinar number 29 in this series, it has been introduced that farm clustering is a strategy to address declining agricultural productivity in general. Indeed, from this slide, I hope you can see that clustering and consolidation, so clustering is at the top of the list on the left side, and consolidation is actually part of the bigger strategy in the 1DA campaign to transform and transform and reform the agriculture sector. And the aim is, of course, to contribute to the country's food security agenda. In this particular, the clustering and farm consolidation approach should be able to help increase local production, improve the local supply chain and mobilization, even contribute to the promotion of food diversification. And eventually, if we are able to do that, we should be able to reduce the levels of importation, at least for rice. Let us refresh ourselves quickly on the words clustering and consolidation and what they actually imply when promoted on the ground. So there's the FAO description. We can see there at the bottom, for example, clustering, and then also about land consolidation. At the same time, the examples that we have in agriculture, like block farming, we are familiar with this in the sugarcane implementation. We have the contract farming, engaging the plantation crops and so forth. But I just want to show you another implementation that has been reported recently, and this is in China. And this caught my attention because it added an information that normally we do not see when we encounter these two words, clustering and consolidation. It says here, land consolidation is a complex program of constructing high-quality farmlands. And maybe we can look at that again later on. Okay, so it is probably worthwhile to look back a bit also of our history, especially if we have members of the audience who are not familiar, to understand a little bit more why we are doing this clustering and consolidation now. In 1902, for example, based on legislated policies, private individuals in the country can actually acquire up to 16 hectares. But if we move fast forward to 2012, from the census data, which happens every 10 years, that area, the average area per farm or land holding, has been reduced to only 1.29 hectares. So the definition here of farm or land holding is that the land is used under single management and operated as one technical unit by one person alone or with others. And therefore, today, we are seeing actually more of the other side, paradoxically, of the same coin, which is fragmented farmlands instead of consolidated. Here, we just want to show you some implementations of the clustering and consolidation in our country. And in this particular case, it is intertwined with the motivation on efficient mechanization. That's on the right side of the slide. And then also that circle, it is about also mechanization of small farms. And there's an overarching goal around these reports in 2003 and 2004, which are about the adoption of precision agriculture and even that time, the push for agricultural modernization. So this is just to share some of the earlier implementation of clustering and consolidation. In this particular slide, we're showing the reason behind the clustering. On the right side is basically they're similar. It's about the facilitation of efficient mechanization. That's in the 2003 report. And then in the 2004 report on consolidation and clustering, it was really on enabling the small farms to adopt mechanization. But the overarching motive here is really the eventual adoption of precision farming and also the modernization of agriculture. And then this implementation in 2009, the motivation around clustering is to consolidate smallholder farmers who are producing vegetable. Later in our experience, there's something similar that we can talk about. And so from those experiences, I think I was able to walk you through in the past when we had 16 hectares per individual ownership of land, and then it went down to 1.29 hectares based on the 2012 census data. And now we would like to, and then we said there that it looks like now we're seeing more of the other side of the coin. These are the farmlands that are fragmented that we're trying to, again, build together. And this is really the essence of the Admin Order 27, which I think maybe was explained also by Yusek RV when you had him in the webinar number 29, because this gave birth to the F2C2 program, or the Farm and Fisheries Clustering and Consolidation Program of the DA. Just to quickly mention, some of the ideas there were captured in our January to March issue of the PhilRice magazine. And we were able to interview also Yusek RV. Just to highlight from that interview, I think the second paragraph there, this is the point to emphasize that in the implementation of the clustering and consolidation strategy, the findings that what we should really be consolidating and clustering should not be focusing on the lands. This was the bottleneck earlier, but really more importantly, on the production value chain of the commodity. Okay, and from that F2C2 program, although it's a new program, we are just putting out the pilot phases we're just in the pilot phase in the DA regional offices in the regions. But the main point is really this early, the engagement of professional farm managers is perceived to be a key enabler for the successful implementation of the farm clustering. And also, again, at the last bullet point, the underscoring of the essence of this clustering is really the production activities and processes across the value chain of the commodity. That is what we are clustering and consolidating. This is important so that you can also appreciate what we did in our implementation. So now, finally, I can walk you through our experiences. The first one is doing clustering the Ricebeast community way. We started this one in 2017, and Dr. Corrales is here with us also. Maybe in the open forum, she can share more ideas. But basically, Ricebeast stands for Rice Business Innovation System. It's practically a community extension program initiative that they started in 2017, which aims to develop a model of community transformation to improve the competitiveness of our rice farmers. And just to summarize this busy slide with the infographic, you can just look at that text in the red box that through the clustering approach, farmers in the community are organized, capacitated, and mobilized to run a particular rice or rice-based enterprise. And at the top of the slide, I highlighted there that technology plays an important role in fact, PhilRice being an R&D institution, actually, we see the rice-based communities as part of our technology scaling out process. You remember that technology push and pull continuum. We just want to show you through this slide the different communities that the program has established. These are the first 8. And also here in words, the learnings that they have shared to us as part of the journey in the community transformation with other partners. So here, for example, one of the Ricebeast communities has among themselves realized the change in the mindset, or understood that what is really required is the change in the mindset, and that they are not mere individual producers and sellers, that they can take part in the bigger entrepreneurial exercise. And so now they're not looking anymore just at the production side, but also involved in the processing and marketing, so in the value chain. We provide some information from that program implementation to date, that by 2022, we hope there will be 23 Ricebeast communities made up of about 203 or to 204 clusters. And some of the really learnings from this implementation since 2017, maybe we just focus to save more time on the idea that rural communities, the third bullet point from the top, rural communities cannot move out of poverty just by focusing on food production. So we have to help our farmers toward the agro-enterprise development. And we mentioned at the bottom bullet point the other partners that we have in making the establishment of these rice-based communities possible. We would like to just help you also imagine how these rice-based communities could look like. So there are clusters within the community. In this particular example, this is a recent rice-based community established in a place we call Mangatarem in Pangasinan. So there are about 5 clusters comprising the rice-based community. And if you look at the detail of the hectareage, this will cover about 165 hectares. Okay, so now let me share to you the second experience that we have. It is one of the actually programs that is connected to the plant project of the government, the DA. But it started actually not as a clustering project per se, but how it unfolded and what it was able to deliver in the end is connected to what, for example, the realization of USEC RB when they were putting together the learnings and then coming up with the F2C2 program, that it's not actually the lands, but actually the value chain, the activities around the value chain that we are trying to consolidate to make that possible. And so here we highlight, for example, in this slide, so we work with a community. It's actually one municipality. We call it, it's called Lupao, that municipal LGU. It is comprised of 24 barangays. And here we would like to highlight that while it was not originally coming out of the clustering program, but what it achieved actually can be considered maybe as a way to implement clustering. We highlight here, for example, that this demonstration, community demonstration, can be a model for consolidated service delivery. So there were 4 entities involved, the municipal LGU, and then there was this. It happened that in this locality there's this association of vegetable growers who are still trying to get their breakthrough in what they're doing. The membership is not really so much, but when we came in, and then PhilRice was involved, and then also some private sector players, companies in the seed and also in the consolidation of, for example, in this case, vegetable produce joined. And just to walk you through this, initially the DA, the instruction of the secretary was just to try to implement something like this, massive village level production for vegetable to support the program of the bigger requirement. And so we implemented this. This was the field day. The secretary visited this. There were 4 components. There's the rice and vegetable cultivation component, and then the household food hub, where different households, normally at this time, because this was last year, the pandemic was still tremendously limiting the movements, but they were able to set up in their, otherwise it will be an idle backyard or front yard. They were able to plant vegetables there for their home consumption, and then the extra went to the association, which eventually in the bullet below you can see bullet point. In total, in the one season implementation, they were able to produce about 30,000 kilos of different vegetables, and much of this was taken up by the private consolidators. So this was also an interesting development, because the association was just initially with few members producing only little amount of vegetable, and then they just think about the market later on. But here, because of the program, the project that was implemented, they got connected now to consolidators, and today we are continuing that. We'll have the second phase soon. But this is I think what the essence of consolidation also, when you do not look at just the land, but what do you do with what is produced from the land. So lessons from the 2 experiences: to be successful, I think, or at least to imagine a successful clustering and consolidation approach program, this will require intensive stakeholder engagement at the community level. For example, in the case of the Ricebeast, we see PhilRice as a catalyzer, a negotiator, a broker for farmers, at least to enable them first time to be able to appreciate the clustering. And then maybe later on, they will be able to do it on their own. And many of them are already actually doing that. That picture that you saw for the first 8 groups, they're already able to do that independently. And then again, I think the bullet number 4 should be highlighted, that in the development facilitators should have a good understanding of the key issues in production and marketing of the commodity. For example, in the case of rice, I think we have that understanding. And then in the case of the implementation of the Pag-ahon project around vegetable, PhilRice has the program on Palayamanan, which is not only about rice, but other commodities, including vegetable. But in the implementation in that municipality in Lupao, there were players who came in, like vegetable seed companies, and then the consolidators of such products. They came in and added really the connection to make the implementation successful, I think. I think I will end with this slide, but this is actually drawing some ideas from another implementation, but not in the Philippines. This is actually in China, where according to this report by Zheng and his colleagues, the land consolidation program in China started in 2000, in the year 2000. And the interesting thing is, I mentioned earlier, the end goal was actually to develop these consolidated lands into something that is high quality farms. And in this particular report, we are still learning in our experience, for example, in the Ricebeast, and then maybe in the Pag-ahon, and then but here they were giving some watch outs, which I think are relevant to us. So they said that in their implementation, of course, in the context of what they implemented, given low levels of managerial experience, and this is also something we can relate with, for example, in Ricebeast, and the lack of agricultural machinery and technical services. This is also something that we can easily imagine in the Philippines. A scale of production that is too large will decrease technical efficiency. So it doesn't mean that if you have the 100-hectare coverage of the cluster, you will be successful, because at the end of the day, I think what they're saying, it will also depend on who will be implementing the actual farming or enterprise development in the clustered area. And the second point is also important. So we have to be on guard that in their implementation, they noticed that crop diversity actually decreased after land consolidation. These things happen because there are other motivations around the clustering program of their government. Rural urbanization was actually promoted so that the farmers who are originally just in the rural area were now working in the more urbanized area of their province. And then that facilitated the acceleration of farmland renting or land tenure transfer, with the hope that those who will farm the land under rental agreements will be better in making the available lands productive. But actually, the consequence of diversity reduction, although this happened, the arrangements that came about because of their implementation of clustering also facilitated mechanization because they wanted more simplified practices in the farm. So I think I will end here so that we can save time, hopefully, for more discussions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you po, Dr. De Leon, for presenting why the government is pushing for farm clustering and consolidation today. It is good to note that even before DA's F2C2 program, PhilRice already has the Ricebeast program to help farming communities in organizing themselves and helping them develop an agripreneur mindset, which will empower them to focus past production and look into agro-enterprise development as well. So we will proceed with our second speaker for now. We have Dr. Nguyen Viet Khoa. He is presently the head of Training and Education Division under the National Agriculture Extension Center of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Vietnam. He has been working in the agriculture sector for more than 25 years already. And he has experience on land use planning, extension services, and capacity building for farmers in sustainable agriculture production in Vietnam. Dr. Khoa, you may take over.
So, good morning, everybody. Afternoon, even evening. So, it's my pleasure to involve in this event, and thank you very much for the inviting us to attend this event. And this is also the first time I tried this topic organized by the organization. So let me introduce a little bit. I'm working for the extension services in Vietnam for more than 20 years, and we have some national extension project and also some study concerning the how to support the farmer and how to do the farm consolidation in Vietnam. So today I would like to share with you three things. Okay, later on. And at the time limited, I have three things I want to share with you. The first is some agriculture figure in Vietnam. Second is the general picture on land consolidation, the challenges, and the extension services, the role of extension services in land consolidation. And talking about the Vietnam, we have more than 33 million hectare total land, but land use 34% agriculture production land, and labor cost for the labor force and 47%, and also agriculture share of the GDP about 14%, and we have some we call the agriculture product is rice, and rice we are the second in the world for exportation. Coffee the third in the world, and the pepper number one in the world for exportation. And last year we would like to show you some figure. It can be said that we are the agriculture country, and in terms of the export value in 2020, rice we export value more than $3 billion US. Fruit vegetable export to the US, European, and the other country in the world more than 3 billion. And cashew also the big product, and we also exporting timber as well as the aquaculture product. So in general, agriculture in Vietnam we think is the most important thing economic sector in Vietnam. We have issued a land law in land law in 2030. According to the new land law or upgraded land law, agriculture land use rights in Vietnam assign first one is the farmer in Vietnam has been allocated the land from government, and who have the allocated land can exchange, transfer the land if they want. They can lease, they can sell their land, and they can inherit, they can donate, and also mortgage as well as contribute land use rights at the capital. So based on this land right, we can set up some support program for the land consolidation in Vietnam. And duration for the allocation of agriculture and forestry land in Vietnam is quite different compared to different kind of land. Agriculture land for annual crop, aquaculture, more than 20 years. The agriculture land for perennial crop, more than 50 years, and for the forest land, longer, 50 years. And also we have the different quota of agriculture land allocated per household. Agriculture land for annual crops depend on different area in Vietnam. For example, in the Mekong River Delta in the south of the Vietnam, no more than hectare per household, and other provinces in central city no more than 2 hectares per household. And for the perennial crop agriculture land may be allocated for different quarter. The Delta commune is, I mean that in Vietnam the commune also receive the land from the government for the commune use. The Delta commune no more than 10 hectares per commune, but in the midland and the other in the mountain, the quarter may be bigger, starting from 20 hectares per commune or more than that. And for forest land, the quota of forest land allocated to household is decided by the provincial level. We in Vietnam we have the people committee at the provincial level, at district level. So the central government assign the tax, or we could they decentralize to the provincial level to allocate the land for the people more than 30 hectares per household on average. And so challenges, I think the challenges in land consolidation allocation in Vietnam may be the same in other countries. You can see that the average agriculture land area and farming household in currently less than 0.5 hectares per household. So the land use productivity is also very low, only about $1,000 US per hectare. According to some statistics in Vietnam, the rate of abandoned agricultural land had increased year by year from the 1.7% in 2014 to 3.8% in 2016. So at the same time, the average land use area in household decreased by 0.9% in period from 2014 until 2016. Currently, the area of agricultural production land per person in Vietnam is very small, only 0.2 hectare, while in the world is the 0.5 hectare, and in our region it's 0.36 hectare. So it means that in Vietnam, agriculture developed mainly based about 10 million individual farmer household with more than 76 million plot, very small and scattered thin, as you see. And we have some other challenges that the land is very small and scattered. The productivity capacity of farmer, and we have a big program to develop the agriculture cooperative, but the cooperative economy has limited development in both quantity and quality. The role of farmer representative at the focal point for production and consumption of agriculture product under contracts and enterprise had not been promoted. We still have limited supporting program for farmer in this matter. The last one is the application of technical equipment according to smallholder farmer have no achieved high efficiency. Talking about a little bit about the extension in Vietnam. In Vietnam, we have integrated extension services system from the central level to the villages level. At the central level, we have National Agriculture Extension Center where I'm working here. And at the provincial level in Vietnam, we have 60 provinces. So 8 provinces, we have provincial agriculture extension center. As a district, we have the district agriculture services center at all district in Vietnam, and also in the commune level, we have the commune extension worker, we have farmer group, we have the cooperative at the commune level, and total number of extension workers in Vietnam, more than 30,000 extension needs working in our system in Vietnam. Okay, so next. And we have some tasks and activity. It with the main function for building capacity for farmer, communication, demonstration, modern establishment, replication, and also providing consultancy services of extension and other relevant fields. In turn, we have also the international cooperation activity on these services. So based on this tab, for the land consolidation, we have some activity, especially for rice. Extension Pro Vietnam, we supporting promotion of value chain for land consolidation. As I mentioned, we have big program with supporting agriculture production in terms of establishing the rice value chain, and also for the other agriculture value chain in Vietnam by setting the linkage between the farmer by farmer. We call the vertical linkage farmer contract. It means that the farmer establish the farmer group link and cooperate with the cooperative, And then based on this, the farmer can change the land. They compile the land from the very small plot that they allocated. Now they compile the land into the cooperative land. We call it the small farmer for big farm in Vietnam. Okay, so based on this cooperative, we will support them to contract with the enterprise, so that the enterprise have the task, have the function to support the farmer in terms of the capital, in terms of the technology, in terms of agriculture inputs, and also the enterprise are responsible for purchasing the farmer product. This is a very big program. So in the south of Vietnam, in the Mekong River Delta, now we have more than 200,000 hectares of rice under Viet program. We call it a big program for land consolidation by using the value chain approach. The other sector, we also have supporting the farmer, the specific program we call the small farmer, largest farm. By this, we are setting up the linkage that the farmer, the farmer group, the rural contract farming, and to the rice exporter, and also produce the high value. And we have big project funded by one bank. We call VNZ project, updated the technology. We call it the NSC, the National Sustainable Rice Program, supporting specific technique to reduce the agriculture input product in terms of chemical, and try to encourage the people to use IPM approach. So by this way, we support the cooperative in this matter. Also contribute for the land consolidation process in Vietnam. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Khoa, for sharing with us how agricultural extension, through its activities and methodologies, mobilize farm consolidation in Vietnam. I note that similarly with the Philippines, Vietnam also promotes the value chain approach in consolidation. With that, let us now proceed with the question and answer portion. We have a question from the audience, and I think she will ask the question live. May I now call on Ms. Epifania Agustin to ask her question? Okay, she might be experiencing some technical glitches, so let's just proceed with the next question. And we have a question for Dr. De Leon. How do farmers feel about the presence of professional farm managers?
In the implementation, I think if I can answer that, and maybe if you can allow also Dr. Corrales, who is the program leader in our implementation of the Ricebeast. In the model of the Ricebeast, actually, the professional manager is not what we were aiming for originally. I think even now, we're trying to develop somebody from the community to become that manager. And so it's not always the case that the one who will become the leader is a professional manager. So I will, if I may ask also Dr. Corrales to expound on this.
The question is, how do farmers feel about the presence of professional business managers?
Yes, ma'am.
So, right now at PhilRice, we have not started with the employment or hiring of professional business managers, because since 2017, our focus was on clustering. So we were not able to proceed yet with the hiring of professional business managers. But maybe in the future, we can hire professional business managers. if we will be able to establish cooperatives. Because when we started Ricebeast, we started with just group of farmers, 10 to 15 members in a cluster, and they are not yet cooperatives. So our focus was on clustering, in organizing the farmers. So if you can just imagine now, we have 123 farmer associations now, and only 10 of these are farmer cooperatives. If this in the cooperatives, they have already their own manager. So we think they do not need any more professional business manager. And when we consulted some of our focal persons regarding the hiring of a professional business manager, they are quite reluctant on having a professional business manager because it might have some conflict of interest with the manager in the cooperative.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We have a comment here from Eduardo Jimmy Kilang, and he said that successful cooperatives are managed by professionals with competitive salaries. So, do you think this is like a driving force and something that arises like an issue with the farmers if they have a professional coming in? Or is it usually more convenient or more accommodating if we have someone from the community participating or leading as a manager for them?
It would be good if no, there is a difference between an association and a cooperative. So, for example, one cooperative has already a manager managing all the enterprise within the cooperative. An association has no business motivation. So they are united or formed in a different manner. So when you hire a professional business manager, and you are already a cooperative, I think there would be some how do you call, maybe conflict of interest, because there is already a manager in a cooperative, and then you are going to hire a professional business manager. Good if it is still an association or an ARBO, agrarian reform beneficiary, then maybe the concept of hiring a professional business manager would be beneficial to the organization.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, ma'am. I'd like to call on Miss Epifania Agustin now. I think she can ask her question now. Ma'am?
I was caught unaware. Now I was about to ask or to ask a question through chat. Dr. De Leon, if he could possibly provide more insights regarding the positive and negative effects of consolidation on diversification.
Okay. The consolidation, ma'am, I think, for example, in the case of what we implemented in Lupao, um, it was not affecting the, for example, the issue on diversity, crop diversity that, for example, was cited in the report of Zheng et al. In China. And the case here, actually, in Lupao, they were planting rice and then vegetable. And then what we were just demonstrating there was actually that is really the way to go. You can benefit from the rice crop, and then you can grow vegetable. And then the added value there in that project implementation was they were only familiar with a few vegetables suitable for that they believe was suitable for their lands. But when we implemented the project, actually every farmer that became participant of the Pag-ahon project, they were visited by the technical people from the company, and then they assess whether really that farm is suitable for this particular vegetable or not. So eventually, the diversity actually increased because eventually what happened was, instead of just producing common vegetable for everyone, they were able to identify which particular barangay actually can produce the better kind of vegetable. And then that got connected with the consolidator who has a demand for particular vegetables over the period of time that we implemented. So we started in June, and then until December, the different vegetables that they required and the volume. So I think that is one idea where we can say that diversity is instead promoted. Now, in rice, for example, in the Ricebeast, the case may not be so obvious because all the participants in the cluster or in the Ricebeast community obviously are engaged in rice production. But possibly we just need to be on guard, like when they start to grow only one variety, like they become mono variety cropping and then they cover a lot of area, then maybe not only in the context of maybe diversity because they could have grown more varieties with similar characters, but maybe the genetic background is different. But also like if there's a pest and then they're going towards a similar variety, then maybe that's also a danger. So yes, ma'am, I think I that is my thoughts around the diversity thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you po, Dr. John. Our next question is for Dr. Khoa. How did you conduct linking up the small farms to the large farms and enterprises? Was this a difficult initiative, and how did you encourage the small farms to engage?
The difference between small farmer and larger farmer in Vietnam is some figure in terms of the scale of the farm. In Vietnam, if the farmer have the farm size less than 1 hectare, we call it a small farm. Yeah, for more than 1 hectare until more, we call it the medium, or more than 10 hectare, we call it the large farm. And how to promote and also how to encourage people to cooperate between the other two for clustering land. In Vietnam, we have three methods. Three activity. The first one, we try to encourage the linkage between private sector and the public sector, as well as the farmer. We have PPP program. So in that, the private sector will support the people for their production in terms of providing the upgrade of added value chain. So they try to encourage people to combine their land into the big the largest farm for easy apply the technology, high technology. For example, for rice, if the people want to close their land into the big farm, they can the private sector will support them for the margin for transplanting, for the rice standing, as well as for the harvesting machine. It is more easy. And also, if the farmer agree to close, they will give them the priority to purchase product and also support the farmer in terms of the agriculture input material. And the second program, we have different internet, we call national supporting program for farmer in Vietnam. We call the national program. Maybe you have learned in Vietnam, we have the big three program where the new rural development program funded by government support them. And we have the extension service program. Also have the budget from the government, and the other program we have the technical supporting program. So we will combine three program to support the agriculture cooperative. So the rural cooperative, I think that similar in the Philippine experiences, we have the cooperative leader, cooperative member, so that the rural cooperative we encourage and promote the farmer for close their land for their cooperative activity. And the last thing is the government policy. Vietnam now encourages people to produce with high quality agriculture product and using the added value chain. So, but through that, we can encourage people to cruise and to do the compilation of land for the small, from the small scale to the largest farm. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Khoa. In relation to your question, and this is something that Dr. John can answer as well, or Dr. Aurora, what incentives, so we talk about encouraging farmers, but what incentives do we give them? What incentives do we present to the farmers so that they will consolidate and organize? Let's start with Dr. Khoa first and then Dr. John.
For the incentive and promotion, we develop some how to sing the priority policy from the government. Yeah? For example, if the farmer want to close their land, they can get priority from the government to evolve in the extension supported program. They can get some benefits. For example, the agriculture input, the technical support for the government in this sector, and also if they agree in the program, some private sector will contact with the extension services. So the extension services will do the linkage between the farmer and the private sector for selling product, for purchase product, as well as for the other post-harvesting activity supporting.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Khoa. Dr. John and Dr. Aurora?
Yeah, the farmers in the Philippines, when they join Ricebeast, they can have 3 incentives. They can receive 3 incentives. One is to raise their productivity, raise their production. So our aim in Ricebeast is to deploy the PhilRice developed technologies. And we believe by deploying the PhilRice developed technologies, they can increase their production. So that is one incentive that they can get from Ricebeast. We assure them that they can improve their production. Number 2, from there they can have when they increase their production, we will assist them in their marketing. We will assist them in marketing. So one incentive why they like to join the clustering or consolidation activity is that we assist them in marketing so they can get even 50 to 1 peso increase in their commodities, in their price. And then number 3 is we link them to public and private sector partners. By linking them, we have what we call a site working group. It is composed of different stakeholders, rice industry stakeholders, public, private, academe, and local government units. This was mentioned by Doc John earlier. And then these private and public sector partners, they are the ones providing local support to them. So if they need some farm machinery, if they need seeds, and then they need some technical assistance, these are the site working group that members that can help them in their rice production needs and requirements. So 3, increase in production, and then increase in the price of their produce, linkage to public and private sector partners, and then development of their agro enterprise that we can also include.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aurora. We have a question here that is a follow-up question actually when it comes to incentives. And the question is on sustainability. Jen Umlas from the World Bank asks, what support can be provided by the government to small cooperatives or cooperatives in general to sustain them? When should the incentives or the subsidies be removed to encourage competitiveness? We can start with PhilRice first and then Dr. Khoa.
Sustainable development for the sustainable concerning your question. We are also facing some problem, but at the current time, we have some strategy. It means that, as I mentioned earlier, we developed the private-public partnership program. As you know, with the limited budget from the government, we cannot support in terms of subsidize the farmer for long term. And we encourage the people the farmer to contribute their labor cost, their capacity, as well as we encourage private sector to support them after the government program finish. After the ended program, we try to link between to link the bank to support the farmer the loan to remain their products. Yeah, in terms of the getting the loan from the in Vietnam, we have big program. We call the social bank, so that the social bank can give them the loan with low rate. As when with the contract farming with the private sector, the private sector will evolve in the added value chain. They confirm to provide the input agriculture material, support the capacity, as when provide the technology, so that the consolidation land at clustering program can be sustainable. I think that's just some small experience from Vietnam. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khoa. Dr. John?
Can I add to that conversation? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. I think I can share this time from the point of view of what we did in Lupao in terms of the Pag-ahon project. We have to imagine that when we implemented that last year, it was really, well, until now we have it, but it was really the height of pandemic where there were a lot of lockdowns. And then we have to appreciate also that when we went to that community, there was already this association of vegetable growers. They have some experience growing vegetables the way they know. But when we look into the situation actually, and this is where what we mentioned earlier, there should be a clear understanding on the facilitator about the commodity and the production issues surrounding them. So it's not really directly like we went there with some incentives in mind. We just went there like with a clear understanding of their situation. And as we tried to evaluate, for example, assess farm by farm, how they can really, how we can implement the project with them, which eventually will lead to, hopefully at that time, them being able to produce more than what they were able to produce earlier, because we thought that it's not only engaging them to produce vegetable, but making sure that as we engage them, they gain some more knowledge. It's very interesting that when we implemented that, just that plastic cover for the saving the moisture of the plant. The way they put it, it's like the wrong side was actually the one shown out. So just that basic thing, and they say, okay, even that one they can correct. But eventually, the ability that you add to them that, okay, they have been doing vegetable, but now they can do it better. And then the ability that now they can plant with already a market in mind. Because previously, before we came in, they just planted first without looking at the market where they will bring. And by the way, they only have actually a small market in that city center, and then also in another town crossing the province. boundary. So that was just their situation. So the incentive that we brought to them is not really in terms of like money or something, but the ability to make their enterprise become better. And when we are able to make their enterprise become better, then maybe over time they will be able to sustain that. So earlier we mentioned, like in the case of Ricebeast, we saw PhilRice just as a catalyzer. Even here, like the players are already there. There's the supportive municipal LGU, and then there's that association, but they can maybe make use of their land. And then there's a technology source, and then there's the consolidator. And what we just did was like steer the communication between these groups. And now they're able to connect to a consolidator. Their products move to Metro Manila, the excess ones, after the households have already what they need. And then now they have a clear market. Actually, interestingly, it's not only these big consolidators that they're dealing with. Interestingly, in the course of doing the transaction with these consolidators, so they will have some rejects of their produce. But they were able actually to also find a way that through the internet, there are now buyers of what was rejected by the consolidators, because of in the consolidators, they would like the product produced using the GAP, the good agricultural practices. And we were introducing that to them in implementing the Pag-ahon project. But of course, not many of them can follow. But for those products that they have but could not sell to the high standard market, they were able to find these things. So the motivation or the incentive really comes from allowing them to see what can happen to what they're doing if they follow, for example, this consolidation or this clustering that happens on their commodity, not necessarily on their land. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. John. So what I took from what you and Dr. Khoa just said is that acting as a catalyzer is very important to our smallholders. And at the same time, private-public partnership is also important to help elevate or increase the production of our farming systems. Okay, our next question is for Dr. Khoa again. It's from Elmer Bautista. As an agri-engineer, I am interested in physical consolidation of land. Example, 50 hectares without boundaries. Is there any successful land consolidation in Vietnam?
Thank you so much for your question. In Vietnam, as you have seen in the mass media, as well as the early my presentation, I shared with you that we are the second country in the world for rice exportation. And also, maybe you have enjoyed the Vietnam coffee. Yeah? You know, we are also the second country in the world for the coffee production. Yeah, in terms of flavor. So we have a lot of story successful on the land consolidation cluster. For example, in rice cultivation in the south of Vietnam, we now have more than 200,000 hectares of the rice land. We call the big farm. Okay, the big farm that on average, each the agriculture cooperative now they own on average 3 hectares of rice for their cultivation. So for the plot, they combine different plots, include different plots come to the largest farm. So I think this the very successful story. So under the largest farm, we have many agriculture cooperative on rice production. This cooperative including 300 farmer households on average, so that the role of the cooperative is to link with the rice exporter and also cooperatives, or link it with the exporting enterprise, the private sector for selling the rice. It's very sustainable. We have two kind of the enterprise. The first, we call it the input enterprise, that the company, private sector who supporting the agriculture material input like the fertilizer, like the other material, and we have the output, Vietnamese output company who are responsible, contract with the farmer for purchase rice production. Second story, we have the big coffee farm under our extension program. As you know, in Vietnam, we have big area in central highland of Vietnam. We have 5 provinces where the people plant the coffee. So 10 years ago, the coffee farm, we call it very small plot. Okay, on average, each household should have only 0.2 hectare or 1 hectare should enough. Now, the farmer group, they can close the coffee plot into the group. Well, how to say, the farmer group land on average they can have 10 or more than 10 hectares of the coffee for their group production. And also we have many the coffee cooperative in Vietnam within some hundred farmer household. They can exchange the land, they can combine, they can close, and together invest in the coffee land project. So many story. As a time limited, maybe we will say you in the next opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Khoa. Our next question is for Dr. John and Dr. Aurora. What are some challenges you encountered in the implementation of your Ricebeast, and how did you overcome them? This is from Jonicio Bukaw.
We have experienced a lot of challenges in Ricebeast. Number one is some farmers do not like to be clustered. Yeah. They do not like to join associations. Maybe because they are so busy with other activities, as they cannot attend meetings. So when we invite them to attend meetings, they cannot attend because they are so busy with some other things in life. Remember, in Ricebeast, we are working with smallholder farmers. So as mentioned by Doc Jan, the average land holding of our smallholder farmers or the farmers in general is already at 1.29 hectares. So if they are busy, we cannot invite them to attend meetings. We cannot invite them to attend training. So that is a difficulty on our part. Filipino farmers have still that tendency to avoid joining organizations because they believe that it takes a lot of time to be a part of an organization, especially if you have to pay some dues or, for example, membership fees. They do not like that. So that is one difficulty that we have encountered with the Ricebeast. But overall, it is a you know, the feeling is very nice if later on, after even if they have difficulty attending meetings later on, they will also be encouraged to join the organization, and the feeling is very good if you can overcome that issue on attending meetings at participating in clusters. I think that's the number one thing.
Thank you, Dr. Aurora, for that. I think, yes, this has been raised many times, even in the past webinar with USEC RB, that engaging the farmers, especially when it comes to these meetings and these membership fees, it's really difficult, especially since as they have other responsibilities at home that they find it difficult to connect or to engage in these associations. Our final question for today is again for all our speakers. The question is, what are the criteria used for clustering and consolidation of farms? For example, in the case of the Philippines, does the F2C2 strategy will lead to sustainable intensification? Is there going to be an impact on the quality of natural resource base, such as soil and water resources? Who would like to answer first?
Some criteria for the clustering and ethnic consolidation Vietnam. First of all, we are talking. We issued it the how to say it the farm size per household. So, as I mentioned in presentation, the farm size is now must be over 2 hectares per household. And then we have the community or cooperative farm size level for body is must be more than 200 hectares per cooperative. Secondly, about the organization of production, it should must be included the value chain production approach, have the linkage between the farmer and also the purchaser and other stakeholders who involved in the value chain. So I mean that the value chain is the second criteria. The third one is also the environmental production. We have issued the criteria for how to say responsible use of the agriculture input material. It for protection. It means that limit you the chemical and the chemical fertilizer, pesticide, and encourage to apply the GAP, the good agriculture practice, and also the other product standard issued by the importer or the purchaser. For example, for coffee production, we give priority for the rainforest at 4C standards for the coffee product, and also for the global GAP as well as for specific. So just share with you some criteria like that as a time limited. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khoa, Dr. John, and Dr. Aurora.
For our Ricebeast agro-enterprise development, we have these 5 criteria, basic 5 criteria. Number 1 is they are smallholder farmers. So when we say smallholder farmers, up to 3 hectares. Of course, when big holder farmers join the group, we also welcome them, but our priority is to assist smallholder farmers, those farmers with less than 3 hectares. Number 2 is the yield is low in the area. So we do some secondary data gathering and we check the average yield in the area. Of course, this will be validated when we do the focus group discussion. But when we see the secondary data and they have low yields in that area, then that is a priority area for clustering. Number 3 is, of course, we have to get the willingness and interest of farmers to participate in this activity, because what we want is to raise the production and then convince them to go into agro-enterprise development. So are they willing to do that? Of course, they cannot all be agripreneurs, but at least there are members in that group who are willing or interested to join and venture into agro-enterprise development. And then number 4, there should be cooperative LGU, the local government unit. We have to talk to the local government unit. We have to get their support. We have to talk to the LGU official and see to it that our initiative will be supported, because we cannot be there all the time. So we need the LGU, very important, the local government unit support. That is number 4. And then the last one is there should be a leader who will stand for the organization or for the group, because he will be the driver to take the lead, to give direction to the group related to this development initiative on agro-enterprise development. So those are the 5 basic criteria that we are using in Ricebeast.
May I add to that, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I just want to go back again to that report by Zheng et al. In 2018, because I kept reading it, and of course the context there is that is China in Jiangsu, in one of their provinces. I even had the chance to be in China maybe in 2016 when these things were happening. I heard some anecdotes how they actually happened, like they were used to farming small lands, and then suddenly when these lands became available, there were those young entrepreneurs who came in and then tried to farm bigger lands. But initially, according to that anecdote with our cooperators there, they were not successful because by natural training and by their insights and possibly instinct, they were practicing what they will do with small farm. But eventually they became better with it. But I would like to again go back also to that paper, because they mentioned something that we never mentioned also in our criteria, even in our PhilRice. Like in their land consolidation program, they consider it complex because actually what they would like to arrive at is the construction eventually of high quality farmlands. So I think I will leave it there, that everyone can imagine that if we will be consolidating all these farms, 100 hectares or even more, eventually it should be for the better, that it will become better than when we started. So there's that objective of ending up with high quality farmland. And if we dig deeper into that paper, the way they describe it is the land consolidation is a complex project involving land leveling, farmland irrigation system, road network improvement, even the natural resource. So I think there will be some kind of a inventory, what was the natural resource before, and then how it can be managed to become more productive, because I think the idea is like that. And we can imagine that in their implementation also, like it only covered 20% of the area, so still so much prospect. But even that, to me, the point is we can imagine all these things, but even in PhilRice, we don't have the criteria of eventually ending up with higher quality farmlands, because we do not have all the parts in control, like irrigation, for example. There's one agency that deals with it, and we have to cooperate with all these things. So it's, I think, the F2C2 is moving into that direction. Hopefully, it can evolve into something like leading into higher quality farmlands because of these consolidation efforts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. John. I see Dr. Obien. Dr. Obien, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, that reminds me about the land consolidation or land reformation of Japan. See, after the war, they really consolidated the land. They put all the land together and then reformed them into the sizes that are suitable for mechanization. And I think that's a big, good model, except that, of course, they spend a lot of money for that. But ideally, if we want to really improve the land, high quality cultivation, and meet the criteria for group action, I think the model of Japan, first reforming the land, the plots, so bigger to the size that where the use of equipment would be more efficient. I think that would be the probably, to me, the ultimate process in land consolidation. What we are talking about now is just consolidating the enterprises, the people, essentially. Consolidation now is really clustering the people for their enterprises, essentially, for the Philippines. I think the case of Vietnam, where they had that 200,000 already being consolidated, similar or seems to be like the Japanese model. I think that's an innovation. And I think in the beginning, that was really what we were thinking. But we found out that it was quite difficult to really touch the land. And so we resorted to the clustering of farmers and clustering of enterprises. But maybe we should initiate some models where it is possible to show that land consolidation for high quality farming may have to be started somewhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Obien. So thank you as well to Dr. John for citing these examples that we can all use as prospects. Dr. Khoa, would you like to add something?
No, thank you.
Okay, so that sums up our open forum. Thank you to Dr. John, Dr. Aurora, Dr. Khoa, and also Dr. Obien for that very insightful discussion on the prospects for venturing into consolidation and clustering. Before we close this webinar, may I request our speakers for some closing or takeaway message? Let's start with Dr. John.
Again, thank you for inviting PhilRice to your Solve webinar series. I hope we were able to share something useful or productive to our participants online. And the exercise of consolidation and clustering is something that that's very important, especially for our case where we still have a lot of smallholder farmers. If they will continue to operate by themselves, I think it will be very hard really to remain or become competitive. The reason why we do this is we encourage them really to become part of a bigger group so that they can be empowered with the group, even in the things that they do with their small farms. So that's what I would like to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. John. Dr. Khoa?
So, first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for the invite me as well as the extension services in Vietnam evolve in the webinar. And this is the first time for us to share with you the land consolidation in Vietnam. But I would like to inform you that we still have some other research program as well as other extension program concerning the land consolidation, not only for rice, but only for other industrial crop, for the pepper or for the exporting agriculture product in Vietnam. We also have some new policy concerning the land consolidation in Vietnam in terms of the establishing the agriculture cooperative program closer related to the land consolidation. So hopefully the next event we will have the opportunity to share with you about our achievement and our lesson learned from the Vietnam land consolidation. And finally, thank you so much for the webinar and for the inviting us. So stay healthy, stay safe and healthy in the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Khoa. On behalf of SEARCA, led by our director, Dr. Glenn Gregorio, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. De Leon and Dr. Khoa, Dr. Aurora and Dr. Obien for taking the time to join us today. It has been a pleasure to have you with us this morning. That ends our webinar, but before we close, please let us know what you think about this webinar by following the link to a quick feedback form shown on your screen. The same link will direct you to the request form for the e-certificate. Your feedback will help us improve our online learning events. Please note that we will only accommodate requests for e-certificates within 24 hours after the end of this webinar. Kindly wait for your e-certificate to be issued at least within a month, as we receive a lot of requests for e-certificates. Thank you for your understanding and patience. Please join us again for our next online conversation on June 9, 2021 at 10 in the morning again. We have invited speakers who will talk about their experiences and insights on transformational leadership for agriculture and rural development. The focus will be in their capacities as members of international development organizations. Please don't miss it. Let us help one another get through this COVID-19 pandemic. We hope that as we go along, we will be able to create a community of better, bigger, and smarter farmers and farming communities. Once again, this is Jean Labios of SEARCA. Have a good day, stay healthy, stay safe, and goodbye, everyone.